There is a posture the body learns before the mind catches up, the moment your arms stop reaching and fall open. Not surrender in the dramatic sense, just the quiet mechanical fact that you have run out of reach. This week traces a single motion across 7 passages, the moment human sufficiency empties and finds God already occupying the space behind it. Watch for where each verse locates God, not arriving, not summoned, but already present at the point where your competence drops off. Every room has a wall. Hezekiah found a theology in one. 2 Kings 22 says, "Then Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed to the Lord." Notice what he doesn't do. He doesn't challenge the prophet, doesn't send for physicians, doesn't rally his court. He turns, and that turning is the whole verse. The Hebrew is physical. He rotates his face into plaster and stone, shutting out every voice that isn't God's. This is not retreat, it's aim. When the final word has been spoken by every credible source in the room, you don't need a wider view. You need a narrower one. When every door closes, a wall is not a dead end, it's a direction. One conjunction in this verse does more work than entire sermons. 1 Chronicles 24 verse 2 says, "But Nadab and Abihu died before their father and had no children, so Eleazar and Ithamar served as the priests." That word "so," 2 sons dead, 2 family lines extinct. And the chronicler bridges it all with a conjunction, not a eulogy, not a lament, just "so." As if God's altar does not pause for grief arithmetic. You have watched what felt load-bearing collapse and leave nothing behind. This verse does not explain why. It only records that the priesthood continued through whoever remained standing. God's work has never depended on the branch you assumed was indispensable. The most dangerous person in your life never disagrees with you. Proverbs 27:6 says, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy." That word faithful, nemanim, shares a root with amen. It means load-bearing, structurally sound. The verse isn't saying a friend's honesty is noble despite the pain. It's saying the pain is the proof. And the enemy's kisses aren't occasional, they're profuse. Abundant. That abundance is the tell. Agreement that costs nothing protects nothing. Name the person whose honesty you've been avoiding, and go back to them. The Hebrew Bible has a word for darkness so deep it belongs to the dead. Job 12:22 says, "He uncovers the deeps out of darkness and brings deep darkness to light." That word is Salmaveth, the shadow of death. Job chose it deliberately. He was not praising God's knowledge from a place of comfort. He was sitting in ashes, insisting that the God who peers into Sheol itself cannot look away from what Job is enduring. The deeps here are not metaphor. They are the primordial abyss from Genesis 1. Whatever you have buried so far down, you believe no light can reach it. Job's theology says God's sight does not stop at the edge of your darkness. It starts there. You are not hidden. You are not too deep. You are already seen. Jesus invented a word for how you pray when you don't trust God is listening. Matthew 6:7 says, "And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words." That word, batalogio, babbling, isn't about length, it's about panic. The Gentile pattern was incantation. Stack enough syllables and maybe the gods wake up. Jesus says your Father is already awake, already attentive. Every repeated phrase driven by the fear that God might miss you is shaped by a deity who doesn't exist. The problem was never your vocabulary, it was your theology. Pray like someone who's already been heard, because according to the next verse, you have. Paul wrote his most confident sentence about your future from a Roman prison cell. Philippians 1:6 says, "And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." That word sure, pepitha, is perfect tense in Greek. It means a settled conviction from the past that has never moved. Paul is not hoping, he is standing on evidence. And the promise is not that you will finish the work. The verb bring to completion is the same word used for fulfilling a vow. God formally undertook something in you, and he finishes what he formally begins. You are not a project God lost interest in, you are a vow he intends to keep. Assyria didn't knock, it walked in. The promise starts there. Micah 5:6 says, "They shall shepherd the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod at its entrances, and he shall deliver us from the Assyrian when he comes into our land and treads within our border." The word is when, not if. God doesn't promise the border holds. He promises deliverance inside the breach. And the verb for what his ruler does to Assyria, shepherd, is deliberate. The empire that devoured nations like a predator gets herded like livestock. The entrances of Nimrod, the gates where conquest was born in Genesis 10, become pens. You don't need the threat stopped at the perimeter. You need a shepherd who operates behind enemy lines. Whatever already crossed your border, he is not arriving. He is already inside it. The 7 passages this week share a structural claim that is easy to miss because each verse dresses it in different clothing. Stripped bare, the claim is this: God does not begin working at the moment you stop. He has been working in the place you could not reach for longer than you have been trying to reach it. This is not a statement about passivity. It is a statement about sequence. We build our spiritual lives around a hidden assumption that God's activity is responsive to ours. We do what we can, and then God picks up the remainder, a division of labor. But what emerged across these texts is something more unsettling and more generous. God's work precedes yours entirely. Your exhaustion does not activate him. It simply makes you aware of what was already underway. This reordering dismantles a particular kind of spiritual anxiety, the fear that if you stop performing, the whole structure collapses. That fear assumes you are load-bearing, and some of what you carry is real. But the weight you cannot set down, the darkness you cannot illuminate, the breach you cannot seal, the future you cannot guarantee, these were never assigned to you. They belong to a completed action, a settled conviction, a God whose sight starts where yours fails. The practical Christ follower hears this and asks the honest question, then what am I doing here? You are not the engine. You are not the finisher. You are the one who turns. That is the whole human contribution across every one of these texts. The turn. Not the solution. Not the words. Not the strength. The orientation. So here's the question to sit with this week as you open your own Bible. What are you still trying to reach that God has already been standing inside of, and what would it cost you to stop reaching and look? Next week brings 7 more verses, and the pattern they carry will meet you wherever this week's question lands. Subscribe so you catch both the daily verse and the weekly thread that ties them together. The God who began his work in you is not watching from a distance. He is closer to your struggle than you are.